Hi all. In this video I'm going to work through solving a 2x2 system, and I'm going to show you both methods that we have for solving this algebraically. Typically I will say substitution is the one that I use the most, but elimination is pretty neat. And it's something that'll come up if you continue taking enough math. It'll be kind of a helpful way to think about things. So I don't mind either way. You will see me use more substitution, and that comes up sooner in your math pathway as a really important skill. Okay, so if we're going to use substitution, basically what that means is you will pick one of the equations and solve it for one of the variables, and then you will substitute that into the other equation. So I'm going to take equation 1, 2x equals 4 minus y, and I'm going to solve for y. You could easily solve for x as well, just divide everything by 2, but that's going to give me fractions, and I don't know if I want to deal with that. So I'm going to go ahead and solve for y. So I will subtract 4 from both sides. And notice that everything we do when we're solving an equation maintains the same meaning for that statement. So the original equation we're given is interchangeable with anything that we do along the way here. Our next step is going to be to multiply everything by -1. So I get -2x plus 4 equals y. So this is my equation 1 rearranged to tell me what y should equal in terms of x. So now your job is to take that extremely literally and say y is the same as -2x plus 4, which means in equation 2, where we see y, we should be able to substitute in the other expression that represents y, which is -2x plus 4. So for equation 2, I know that 3x minus 2y should equal -1. But I'm replacing y, substituting in -2x plus 4. And this is a skill that works for nonlinear equations just as well as it works for linear equations. So substitution is very nice. If you can express one variable in terms of another, you should be able to replace that wherever you need to. All right, from here, I just have a slightly messy linear equation to solve. So 3x, I'm going to go ahead and distribute through, so it's actually going to be plus 4x minus 8 equals -1. So 7x minus 8 equals -1. I can add 8 to both sides, which means that 7x equals 7, or x equals 1, dividing both sides by 7. Okay, so that's very nice. I won't guarantee that you'll always get integer answers for the problems I give you, so don't be freaked out if you get a fraction for an answer to one of these. That's possible. But I like this x equals 1. From there, I just need to remember that a 2x2 system has two variables, so its solution should have a value for each of the variables. So I'm not quite done yet. I can go back to either of those original equations and replace x with 1 to figure out what y is. So I think I'll go back to equation 1, and if you trust yourself, I guess if you made a mistake, it's going to be wrong no matter what anyways. This is already solved for y, so we could replace the x with 1, and that one's just really nicely organized to get your y value out of. So -2 plus 4 is 2, which means our solution set is x equals 1, y equals 2. Or you can write it as an ordered pair. If we're using the xy variables, x should go first, y should go second. And I think that's one of the downsides to writing it as an ordered pair. If your variables aren't x and y, it becomes a little hard to decide which one should go where. But I think most of what you see is in terms of x and y, so you should be fine. Okay, so that was solving with substitution. To solve with elimination, we use that same idea that As long as we use the properties of equality, you can multiply and divide both sides by the same number. You can add and subtract the same number on both sides without changing the meaning of the equation. And basically where we go with that is that if you apply any of those things to one of the equations, what you end up with could just replace that equation in the system. It's the same thing. It just looks a little bit different. So what we would do here is I would probably start by getting all your x's and y's lined up in the system. So equation 1, I'm just going to add y to both sides. So we're going to do plus y plus y. So that moves the y over to the left. So I have 2x plus y equals 4. And 3x minus 2y equals -1. Okay, so this is my system, just rearranging a little bit. And then what you want to do is get the coefficients of one of the variables to match up. So you can multiply or divide by whatever you want to make them match up, or make them opposites is actually the way I like to do it. So like right now, I see a -2y in the bottom equation. If I multiply the top equation both sides by 2, I will have both y's with a coefficient of 2, one positive, one negative. So I get 4x plus 2y equals 8. And again, the idea here is even if we multiply everything by 2, that equation still has the same solution. So I can just replace that equation in the system with this different version of the same equation, and it still has the same solution set. It doesn't change what the answers would be. Okay, so this is what's really key here, the plus or minus 2y. Some people do this by making them both positive, and then you'll subtract one equation from the other. I kind of like make one positive, one negative, and then you just add everything together because it saves me from making little mistakes with negatives. Okay, so this is the elimination step, and it might feel a little weird, but the idea is, you could think of it this way. I'm looking at equation number 2, and I want to add 8 to both sides of that equation. So you would think, okay, I go plus 8, but what I know is that 4x plus 2y is also equal to 8. So on the one side, I could add 8, and on the other side, I could add 4x plus 2y. And what it looks like is you're just adding the two equations together, and that basically is how it works. You must keep those equal signs lined up. You can't add something to the wrong side and still get correct answers, but as long as you line those equals up, that's the moving my variables all to one side before I started, this should work beautifully. So we get 3x plus 4x is 7x. -2y plus 2y is 0, so nothing left there. And then -1 plus 8 is 7. And this looks very familiar. Oops, except I'm writing the wrong thing. If 7x equals 7, then x equals 1. And we already know, so you still have to do the same work as up above, but y is equal to -2 times 1 plus 4, which is 2. So you will get the same answers either way. Make sure you're comfortable with both methods. I again would say particularly with substitution, but both of them are really good tricks, and elimination does come up as a good tool eventually if you keep going in your math. All right, thanks for watching.